Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Halloween special, Under His Eye. I'm Eliza Mann, and tonight I'm Alfred.
And AJ Norris, I'm Wonder Woman.
I'm Sage Spelling, and I'm the queen of the dark fairies.
All right, so we're going to get started. I got to take that thing off and get my little bonnet together. Get all cute for y'all. All right, so tonight we got the Savior. Oh, I hope he's not dipping out. Okay, we got the Savior with our friend Murder. So I'm going to read the intro and then we'll jump right in. All right, so in the venerable history of the Black Dagger Brotherhood, only one male has ever been expelled. But Murder's insanity gave the brothers no choice. Haunted by visions of a female he could not save, he nonetheless returns to Caldwell on a mission to right the wrong that ruined him. However, he is not prepared for what he must face in his quest for redemption. Dr. Sarah Watkins, researcher at a biomedical firm, is struggling with the loss of her fellow scientist fiance. When the FBI starts asking about his death, she questions what really happened and soon learns the terrible truth. Her firm is conducting inhumane experiments in secret, and the man she thought she knew and loved was involved in the torture. As Murder's and Sarah's destinies become irrevocably entwined, desire ignites between them. But can they forge a future that spans the divide, separating the two species? And as a new foe emerges in the war against the vampires, Murder is called to return to the Black Dagger Brotherhood. Choosing between his mate and his fate as a fighter, however, may be the final thing that breaks him. I just want to say we love us some Murder. He is so sweet. Oh, okay. All right. I won't belabor that point. So what were your first thoughts of Murder? This was our first time being in his point of view, and we'd heard so much about him in the past books. So what do you think of him? And do you think he was just emotionally damaged, or was he misunderstood?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely emotionally damaged. I mean, he had, I mean, the sympaths mess with him because you can imagine the kinds of things and the kind of mental torture that they put him through. So, of course, it's going to mess you up, and he's this like protector, that's his personality. He's like it's called the Savior, right? He's a protector, and, he has, self-perceived notions that he failed to protect some people that needed his protection. So I think that compounded what happened, to him, so.
Yeah. What about you, Sage?
So I think he was misunderstood. So I think he did go through some trials, and I think that he had a lot of emotional issues to work through because of the things that he wasn't able to do, because he expects himself to be the Savior. But like all the other guys, all our other males, they all have this baggage to carry because they weren't able to do what they felt they were responsible for, right? It was their job to save. And I think that's where he's coming from in that. But I think he was misunderstood because they assumed that he did all these things that he didn't do. They didn't realize that he was taken away. He was held captive for 2 months by the sympaths. So to me, that's more of a misunderstanding of his character and the things that he's gone through more than him actually being damaged goods, I think that's where, it comes from with him.
Yeah, I would agree that I think it was a little bit of both. I think that anytime you spend so much time in solitude and you rambling around this attic for, a couple decades and, you don't have that human interaction and the things that people and vampires need to be healthy. That's one thing. And then the torture from the sympaths can't be like a walk in the park. I mean, that shit is crazy. And, I just feel like he, probably had a lot of things going on that contributed to him, but I don't think they made it necessarily easy for him to be a part of the Brotherhood. So he had a necklace that he wore kind of as one of the things that kept him grounded, I feel like. It was made of a glass shard. Who do you think gave him that? We learned in this book that Lassiter could have gone back in time from the previous books. We know that he can do that. So was it the scribe virgin that made the shard twinkle, or do you think it was Lassiter or something else?
You know, I think the scribe virgin. I don't think that Lassiter went back in time. I don't think, what I thought was really interesting, and I know this is sort of the end of the book. I don't mean to jump to the end of the book, but like how he when he wore the glass shard, he could see Sarah, but when she wore it, because he gives it to her, she sees him. So I thought that's kind of interesting. So I don't know. I mean, it could be. I don't know. I don't think Lassiter went back in time to do this. I don't think so.
Okay. How about you? How about you, Sage?
I don't know. I honestly, I have no. I don't know, but I don't see it being something the scribe virgin would do, because there's this whole balance thing, right? So what did he sacrifice to get that special treatment, right? So I don't know if it was her. So if it would be one or the other, I would say it was Lassiter, because he just does it out of the goodness of his heart, So if somebody was supposed to do it, it would be Lassiter. Because with the scribe virgin, I feel like there's always got to be something, it's always like that yin and yang thing with her, right? So I don't know if it would be her. So I don't know.
It's interesting, like you're saying. The only reason I kind of don't think it's Lassiter is because, at the end of this book, I know I'm jumping to the end again, but it's like he lets Sarah have eternal life. So he wouldn't have done both things. That's just.
I disagree. I think I don't know. I think he's done a couple things for people before, and like he went back and got now I can't even think of her name, Selena, and made it happen for her. I don't know why, when the Brotherhood does desperately need someone, and it was kind of like a prayer of Manny and Jane to have an additional surgeon, or researcher, or some scientist to help them out. So I don't know why I don't see him not doing it. I don't think that the scribe virgin, I think she's like, I provide all. So for her, I don't see the motivation for her. So I mean, I'm leaning towards Lassiter just because I like his style.
But it could also be a coincidence, right? So we also have to remember, not necessarily has to be one of them doing it. He could have really just honestly like come across the shard glass, and and I'm a big serendipity type of girl, so I kind of like the idea of him just coming across it too.
I just don't, you don't just randomly see that kind of magic. So I didn't even think of that. So maybe that's it. Because, we just don't see it that often. Doesn't mean it ain't true though. So very good hypothesis, ladies. All right. So what was your impression of Sarah when we first met her?
I don't know. She almost seems like a basket case in some ways. I don't know why. I mean, because she was like blaming herself for her fiance's death. Oh, if I had just gotten to him sooner, and this and that, and it's like, I don't know. She. I mean, obviously she had guilt because she felt like kind of was her fault, but then she realizes it probably wasn't. But I don't know. I think she's lonely, and I think so is Murder. So I think they're kind of kindred spirits in that way, and they both kind of lost their families, and of course Murder gets his back, and then she, I don't know, gets a new family basically. So it's just kind of cool. So
yeah, that's neat. How about you, Sage?
I like
I like her. I think that you're right. She had guilt. I think she had a lot of survivor's guilt, especially because she was holding so many different emotions about like their relationship, right? Because she wasn't even sure they were going, like when he was still alive, she wasn't sure that they were even going to make it, right? So she had all these doubts about their actual relationship. So she had all that survivor's guilt, I think. But besides that, I think she was a little badass, right? So she kind of was a little kind of tough with the FBI guy. She did her own little research trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know. I liked her character. I liked that she was strong. But at the same time, she had all that other stuff that, you know, make her compelling as well, right? With the whole survivor's guilt and stuff like that. So
yeah, I enjoyed her. I thought I love science. I love women in STEM, just because, you know, it's a whole thing in real life. So it's really nice to see women that are smart. And you know, she wasn't overtly outgoing, but she also wasn't like that stereotypical girl that you see that's in science, that's kind of like unrelatable almost. So it was really nice to see her compassion and have that scientific side to her. It was just kind of cool to see her there. And you guys mentioned guilt. That would, I was just roll into that guilt thing. I totally understood her guilt, because I think she was dealing with the pain of, you know, knowing that she was probably going to dump this guy before they even made it to the altar, you know, and those feelings that, God, if I hadn't stopped by the sink to admit that he hadn't done the things he was supposed to do, maybe I could have saved him, you know, because he was in insulin shock, you know, so, or at least that's what she thought initially. So I can appreciate, you know, having to step outside of that role, that expected woman wife role, and, you know, having to deal with that guilt and keep going. So I thought that was a pretty neat perspective to have. She just had a lot of depth, and I really appreciated her character. So did y'all want to add something about guilt? I'm gonna roll right past that question. If not, y'all good? All right. So she went to the lab. She went and found out that there could possibly be some underhanded, shady dealings going on, and she just, you know, she just kind of rolled on out. Should she have done that? Just, you know, just like that? What do you guys think?
I think she had to do it, you know. But I was saying, I think she had to do it, you know. I think for her own peace of mind, for everything that she was trying to figure out what her fiance was doing before that, she needed to do it. And I think that that's why I think she's a little badass, because she was like, I need to know, and I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna see. And then when she saw, she was like, look, kid, let's go. I'm getting you out of here. Yeah, you know, I just think she was just I think that she needed to do it, and I'm really glad that she did. Obviously, it just shows her strength, you know.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. How about you, AJ?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty dangerous, but I think that it was also another kind of like a guilt thing. Like, I can't not do anything morally. So that's, you know, that's a, you know, good character trait.
Really
She's very moral, you know, and she was just like, I gotta find out. And if this person's still there, I can't live with myself if I don't at least try. So.
Yeah, that was pretty freaking neat. I was like, girl, I'm so nervous for you. But before we go on with the lab, let's talk a little bit about the opening of the book and murder. Heggs went to the audience house to see him. Should she have done that? And then she used her skills on the brothers to kind of find out. How you guys feel about that?
I mean, I don't blame her. I mean, she's hearing these hush hush tones, and she's like, well, what the hell's going on? Because it makes her nervous. And, you know, because she is a very empathetic person, even though you don't always see that. And so she's just like, I mean, she really, technically, she literally is an empath, if you think about it. So it's just like, I think that she wanted to know. She was concerned, and, you know, she's like, what the heck? And I think that she went to the audience house because she just was, I think, more out of curiosity. And, you know, and not that she wanted to be with him anymore, but she still cared about him, you know. And she wanted to see what was doing. And, you know, she, of course, carries some guilt as well. So, and then, you know, she finds out that, you know, he protected her and all this stuff, and, you know, and then, you know, so I don't know. I mean,
so you like, use it.
Yeah, I don't blame her.
Use it, girl.
I would too.
So was it a violation? Yeah, right? Because
Okay.
they're trusting her not to play
They
around
never
in their
told her not to
brains,
do it.
right? I don't know. I mean, it's just, was it a violation? Yes. But there's a but to this. I mean, just like if we stalked an ex on Facebook and checked out their profile, you know, it's kind of like the same thing. So I feel like that's what she did, but she has the ability to like snap her finger and she's there, and snap her finger and she's gone.
Who
like,
stalked the ex? I didn't. I never did. No, I'm just kidding. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But I'm just saying, right? Like, you know, we check Facebook on even like our friends that we don't want to talk to no more. We'd be like, what they up to?
I
Like,
never.
and I feel like that's what she was doing, right? So it's just how it is, right? So I feel like that's what she was doing. I like relate it to that. So I don't think that it was a bad thing. Like, I don't think she had like real feeling. Like, I don't think it in any way it showed that she had any ill intention. I just feel like, you know, she was just curious and nosy, you know, and she wanted to know.
Yeah.
And had he not get ran over, nobody would have known.
Damn it. Those damn
Right.
people ran fast over. I'm a roll with it. I feel like, you know, nobody was telling what was happening, and she was feeling like, I'm gonna find out. And I think sometimes, you know, they do have that tendency to block people out of brotherhood business, but then the people they block out have to do their business. So how fair is that? So yeah, I think I'm not mad at her. Yes, it was wrong. Because you shouldn't intrude on people's mind. And she tries not to. I've seen her try not to. But sometimes it happens. And it ended up working to the good. So I ain't mad at her one bit. Go ahead, girl. Do your thing. Got to find out. Right? All right. So John got bitten. And, you know, it immediately reminded me of vegan bitten. And not telling anyone. And John did the same thing. Why didn't he tell anyone? Not even Hex. And normally he confides in her. Why do you guys?
Was scared shitless.
Yeah.
I think he was just scared. He was just mortified by the whole thing. And, you know, if you don't think about it, maybe it didn't really happen. And let's see if it gets better. And, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think he was just scared. He's just so terrified. So
Yeah.
I don't blame him. But,
Yeah.
you know, it's
he
like,
got no blame tonight.
It's like somebody who's like afraid to go to the doctor even though they're having symptoms of something. You know, it's that kind of thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
What about you, Sage?
I agree. He says like, I'm scared. I'm so scared. I don't know what this is. I think that has a really big part of it, but at the same time, I think he was scared, and then he didn't want to worry anybody else as well, right? That's why he didn't want Hex to see it, because he knew she would freak out. You know, because how can you not, right? And it started getting darker, and you know, so he was just afraid for him. He was afraid, and he was afraid for them as well. Like, for
Yeah. So I'm going somewhere else on y'all. So I do feel like, and y'all know I do that. I'm sorry, but I do feel like a part of him was feeling like an outsider. So in addition to that fear that he was feeling, he was already feeling like an outsider. Quinn was a brother. And, you know, they sent him away whenever they had like brotherhood business, unapologetically though, even his dad, you know, and I think, you know, to be bitten like that, I think he just didn't want to also feel like another thing that set him apart. I can't speak. I have seizures. I was raised by humans. I have all of these things that strike against me, and I don't want to feel that anymore. And, you know, so I think that kind of contributed to it too. Even with Hex, you know, because I think he was protecting her and he doesn't want her to worry, but he also don't want to see, you know, different. He wants to be, you know, the man for her. And I appreciate that about him. I just wish he would tell somebody, because he could have died. Okay, I'm not going to go.
Well, I know. I mean, it's almost like he was thinking that was a failure on his own part for allowing himself to get bitten. But it's not, though. You know, it just happens. So,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, John is very, very sensitive. So I think he's always thinking, you know, about what could possibly happen that's bad. So bless his heart. I'm so glad he's okay. Hang on, y'all. My questions went out for a second. All right. So Then V, bless his heart, he was like super shitty to Murder when he got back. And when he was talking to him specifically about Darius dying, he was almost not talking to him about it, which was extremely horrible. I almost feel like he was nicer to Core than he was to Murder upon his return. What do you guys think about that? And why was he being so cruel?
Well, I mean, they were, you know, judging him based on things that they thought were true, but which weren't, you know. But yeah, I thought he was a little harsh. It's like, just tell him the brother died, you know, like what, you know, explain how he passed away. What, you know, that, you know, it's like, what's the big fucking deal? You know, you were part of the family. It's like they just completely shut him out of their family. And it was very sad. I did not like that. I wanted to punch B.
Yeah.
And I think didn't Rage somebody said something to him like, you know, you're not helping. Why are you making this worse? Maybe, I don't know if it was Butcher. They even specifically said who said that to him, but he's like, I am helping. I found the female, you know.
Right. I think it might have been Butch because they were all together when they were talking about it. So yeah. What are you thinking, Sage?
I think the difference between Core and Murder to V was the betrayal, right? So, you know, he at the beginning, Core was his enemy. So it wasn't like he had an actual relationship with him. For Murder, he felt like Murder betrayed him. It was that type of betrayal, I think. And I think that's why he was so hard on him, because you were my friend. You disappeared on us. You flaked out on us. You know, obviously he didn't know the truth of why, but that was where he was coming from with that. I think he was looking at it as a betrayal to him personally, and the brotherhood, you know.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I agree. I can see that.
Yeah, I get it. I do think V can be. Sometimes he relies on his vision so much that if he can't see anything, it doesn't fucking matter. So I'm not gonna deal with it, you know. And that's just how V rolls. It was unfair. I think you know, we've seen them do that before though. So I have all this information and I'm not leaving room for any other information to enter in. So should he have done it? Hell no. V, get yourself together. Shit. All right. So then Murder they do find, as we mentioned a moment ago, they do find out where Ingrid is. And then Murder asks Hex to go with him to see her. Why did he do that? And did John overreact to that?
I mean, he did that because he figured it would be better for another female to be there instead of a bunch of males that possibly could scare her, you know, because they didn't know she had flight risk. They didn't know what was going on with her. So, you know, so I think it was the right choice. And the brother, they weren't really trusting him, and she was just like, hey, I'm here, you know, like she trusted him. She knew that he wasn't that crazy, you know, because she can get in his head and all that stuff. So I think it was the right choice. What was the other question about?
It was, did John overreact?
You know, I don't think so. I mean, this is her ex-lover, you know. He's just being a bonded male, you know. He was just concerned because he hadn't met him, and he's hearing all these, oh, he's crazy, is this, you know, how, you know, why are they trusting her alone with him? What if he hurts her, you know? I mean, or what if, you know, she wants to get it on with him or something? You know, I don't think he overreacted, but he sees them hugging and he's like, But, you know, the thing Tor was there and like, you know, and that's, you know, I don't think he overreacted, no. I wasn't going to be that, you know, upset and passionate about me.
How about you, Sage?
Did John overreact? Absolutely not. I think that he was acting, he was pissed off, right? And, you know, he had every right to be. Like, again, you mentioned earlier how the brotherhood treats him. and you know, he felt like he was slighted. Like, now you keep me excluded, you let my girl go, but you won't let me go. What the fuck, right? So I can totally see where he was, and he had every right to do that. And was it fair? The other question was it fair for Murder to ask for Hex? Is that your question?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that, you know, from his POV, he had already seen her. He didn't know she was bonded. You know, she was with, you know, she didn't know she had a mate. So him asking that, I think it was fine. He was going by the relationship that they had and the circumstances. So yes, I think that he was
Yeah. I wouldn't have asked anyone else if I were him, because, you know, he knew that she above all had a 6. And I don't think, you know, I don't think he even considered whether or not she had another maid or, you know, whatever. He was just like, okay, this girl is a warrior. She'll have my back in case some shit jump off. And, you know, I think, you know, who else would you have asked? V was acting like an asshole, and you can't, you know, it is kind of dangerous to go out on your own into an unknown situation. So I didn't see anything wrong with that part of it. I don't know if John overreacted. I feel like John was actually reacting to other things, because he was feeling like the Brotherhood was shunning him a bit, and, you know, I feel like he was reacting to all of that at once, kind of like what you alluded to, Sage, you know, that everything was happening at once. And he just was like, the one thing I can control is my relationship with my child, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna, you know, this I can handle. So bless his heart, I feel so bad. All right, so you know, the whole thing stems, and this is kind of a jump around, I'm sorry about that. The whole thing stems from Murder field dressing a few humans, burning down a lab, supposedly, and all of that. If it was just that, why was it such a big deal? We alluded to it a little bit, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
You know, it was mainly because, I think mainly is because that what he did was gruesome, but also it made national news, and that was really, really hard for them to cover up. You know, because that's part of their job, is to protect the species, and by doing that, you have to make sure that human involvement is kept, kept secret. And so, you know, he betrayed them by doing that. You know, I don't think him going to try to save anyone in the labs was a betrayal. It was just the result of what he did that was the problem. You know, I don't think that they would have been upset. They probably would have been like, yeah, let's go. You know, I think that if he had told them, they would have been like, yeah, we need to get these people out of there, you know, get our fellow vampires out of there, you know, but instead he chose to just do it by himself and, you know, crazy and cover up the fire, and, you know, this whole thing, you know. So, but,
how about you, Faye?
Well, I agree that, you know, he left a mess for them, right? So I think that he just kept, and I think that was one of V's issues. He was like, you know what kind of mess you left for us to clean up? You know, so you know, that part, I think that was part of it, because I don't think they really care. So I didn't understand that either, other than the cleanup. You know, they refer to humans as rats without tails, right? So like, they can give 2 craps what happens to the humans, long as you know, they're not going out like on a murdering spree, because that's just wrong, like morally to them, but more or less just the, you know, if the humans deserved it, they're really good with like, you can kill them. I think the issue was just the way he did it, the way he left things. Well, we know later that it wasn't actually him, but it was that the cleanup that they had to do that they were so upset about, I think. And it had piled up to everything else that he had done up until then, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm leaning more towards that beginning part where he disappeared for a few months at a time, and they felt like instead of asking him like normal people do what happened, they made some assumptions about him being gone for that amount of time because when it came down to it, yeah, he mentioned the humans and the cleanup, but he really talked about how they felt like he had betrayed the brotherhood, and their feelings were hurt, and you know, they got butt hurt a little bit, and they like, we ain't even talking to you no more. You can't sit with us, and you can't wear pink on Wednesdays either. So
that is totally what Bush said. I'm sure.
Yeah. So right. So you just like, you know, I feel like it was just that overreaction for him being missing for a few months. But, you know, knowing if I'm working with someone and he disappears for 2 months, I'm gonna go look for him and I'm gonna figure out what's going on. Right. So that probably should have been the course of action. Doesn't sound like that happened. So
Agreed.
Not gonna save you, V, but you acting a little. All right. So should John have followed Hex though? Once he was kind of excluded from the mission, he followed her and saw them hugging and jumped to a few conclusions. So should he have followed her, and why was he so? I feel like we answered that a little earlier, but why was he so suspicious of them in the first place?
Because he's this hot male that she had sex with. I mean, you know. And he's single and they're going alone, and you know, I mean, I think it's a normal reaction. I mean, he didn't go overboard. Like, he followed her, but he didn't like approach her, you know. He didn't, you know, it was like, yeah, I mean, he wanted to, but you know, I mean, I think it was normal. I think, and he was feeling really insecure and just, he was feeling away. So he just, you know, I don't blame him. He wanted to, yeah. And I mean, I think you had said this before about it being, you know, him feeling excluded. And yeah, cause they were like, yeah, well, your Sheldon's going to go, you know, with murder on this, we're going to go back up, but you have to stay here. You have to stay here, you know, because you're just a child. You know, they kind of treated him like a child, I think, in that moment. You know, like he couldn't handle it, you know, and that was kind of a slap in the face, I think.
How about you, Sage?
Agreed. I agree that, you know, he was in his feelings, and that's why he stayed behind. That's why, you know, he was upset that they wanted him to stay behind. So when he followed, it was more like, I still want to go and see what's happening. You know what I mean? It wasn't, and then because he was in his feelings, he assumed, right, so look, she's hugging him now, and it was all in his head. And sometimes when we're in our feelings, we make a pea into a mountain hill, you know, or I don't know if that's the correct terminology for that analogy.
Mount, not a molehill.
That's what it is. I just messed that one up.
It's
but
all
okay,
good.
whatever.
It's late.
It is great.
We're doing the best we can tonight.
Right.
I do appreciate that Hex's reaction. She didn't overreact to him overreacting. She was like, or, you know, not that he overreacted, but you know what I mean? His reaction. She was very, I think she handled that really well. And, you know, that was kind of a test to her character too, you know, because in the past she would have just been like, fuck you all, you know, and just took off, you know, but here she just, you know, she's like, hey, you know, this is it, there's nothing going on, let me prove it to you, you know, was really calm about that, and I really appreciated that about that situation. So
yeah, I disagree on the first part. I feel like he shouldn't have followed her because I mean, you know, I don't think you should follow people, you know, because you don't trust them. I feel like you should talk to them. And
I don't think he didn't trust her. I don't think it was her. It was him.
Well, I don't know. I just feel like he could have had a conversation with her, and it essentially, she's never done anything for him not to trust her. You know what I mean? Like, she went out and, you know, it's been plenty of guys that aggressed on her, and she handled her business, you know, and she does it every night. And she's never like betrayed him or anything. It did feel awkward that he was going to like spy on her a little bit. I didn't like that part. I do get it though. Like it's difficult when he was feeling all those things. I do still attribute it to, you know, this is the one thing I got, and I'm going to hold on to it with everything I got, you know? So I think that was the thing. I don't think he should have followed her. And he did like blow up immediately, you know, after. I did appreciate how she handled it. But yeah, if he would have just kind of stayed home and had a conversation later, that might have helped the whole situation in the first place. I'm being like super liberal tonight, and I love it. I fucking love it. I think it's this Handmaid's Tale costume. It's turning me into a whole different person. So our friend John, when he finally gets to meet Murder, immediately has a seizure when Murder looked at him. Though he looked at him and said, "I know you." So what do you think of his reaction? And what about John's reaction to him when he finally stopped seizing and came to?
That was very interesting. I mean, he definitely was like, you know, I think he saw Darius in him. You know, he's like, he doesn't really look exactly like him, but there's just something about his eyes, the way that he looks, his mannerisms, like even like later when they're out in the field together, you know, and he sees them coming up the alley, and just, you know, and the wink he gives him later, you know, was just something that was how Darius was. And so he really saw, you know, that. And when he finally finds out, oh, you know, he's Darius's son, well, you know, they think that it's his son, you know, he's like, oh, now that makes sense. But he's still, you know, he was like, yeah, there's something there. So
yeah,
interesting. I mean, poor John, but at least Hex understands it, so she was just like, you know, cool about it. She didn't like freak out or anything. So and she tries to like say, John, like, you know, she almost like says it, like, you know, like, you know, she almost is like, you're Darius. Like, she doesn't say that, but it's like, she almost says it, but she doesn't. So we'll get to that later. I know that was another question later. Sorry.
How about you, Sage?
Okay, hold on. That went all over the place.
So it was, John had a seizure.
Yeah.
When he first saw Murder. What about Murder's reaction and then John's reaction to Murder?
So I think, sometimes I feel like I'm a big believer of souls recognizing each other. I think that's why we instantly become really good friends with people, and, you know, or like that type of that connection. And I think that they recognized each other. Their souls recognized each other almost. I feel like, because like it was like instant like bond, you know, like instant buddy bond. You know what I mean? And then such they became really cute friends. I just loved it. And I really think it was just like two souls that recognized each other within them.
I agree.
Yeah,
I mean,
it kind of had.
They're both sweethearts too, so.
I mean, it kind of had to, because they were like at one point like super close, you know, when John was Darius, and I just, you know, it was kind of unprecedented, because you hadn't seen, you know, anyone react to John that way, even people that had known Darius that were super close to him, you know, they didn't react in that way. So it was kind of neat to see someone that didn't have like those super empathic abilities that Hex had, that kind of say, oh, I know you. You know, because you would think that the other brothers would do the same, but they kind of didn't. I think that goes back to Murder being such a observant and sweet soul. You know, he takes the time to recognize things in other people. I think that was one of the things that showed you who Murder was as a person, that, you know, he can see beyond the immediate to respect people where they are. And I think that's probably related to his experiences. And I feel like he's one of the only brothers that has that ability. So it's kind of cool. And then I really appreciated John, like giving him a chance, even though he knew he had been with Hex. I think that showed that John is very, very mature soul, even though they treat him like a kid all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and going to your point about, to me, it's like the other brothers, they saw him as a pre-trans, and I think that that's probably part of it, that it's just, that he didn't have that existing like thought about John. John is this pre-trans, this little kid, and they take him in, and he also wasn't there or part of the Brotherhood when, Scribe Virgin made that deal with him. And so maybe he kind of was kept out of the kind of loop that the Brotherhood, the other brothers seem to be in with. They almost could tell he's Darius, and then it just leaves their mind. Like, he recognized him when he, switched his dagger hand to his left, and he was just like, oh God, you look exactly like Dee, when he fought.
Yeah.
So, but then it's buried again. So I think that maybe that has something to do with it. And I think
I ain't giving that to them, because you know what? They don't really come and play like that. They knew them when they were free trans. They just treat John a little.
Oh, I'm not talking about him treating him like a kid. I mean, as far as them not recognizing that he's Darius. So
no, I thought you had said earlier about them, not seeing him as a pre-trans, and maybe that's why they treat him like that. And
I was meaning like I was talking about murders.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Well, no, to AJ's point, I understand what she's saying. So I understand that you're saying that because they saw him as a pre-trans, they can't put it. They don't put the same correlation of him actually being Darius, because they saw him as a baby and then he transitioned, and where murder is just seeing him as a full-grown male. And I think maybe that's why they don't make your point is that that's why they don't make the correlation. And I think I can see that from them.
You're not predisposed to him being a child.
Yeah.
I'm not giving it to him. I feel like they I don't know. You should be more intuitive than that. I feel like, they intuitive about other things.
I know I agree, but I think that that's how the Scribe Virgin set it up too. So but
bless her heart.
No, legit, they ignore the fact that he can read the old language and he has the mark of a warrior. They just ignore a lot of shit.
It's intuitive. I cannot give that to him. I cannot give that to them. If anything, after spending more time than murder, you should know more about this man. Yeah. Like, I don't see it. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I don't see it. So, okay.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you. I just think that that's why,
Yeah,
they should be like, wake the fuck up, right? I get it.
It's fine. Yeah, I really want them to, but it is what it is. Oh my God. Why doesn't Hex just tell them that she knows he's serious? Why doesn't she at least tell John? Why do you think that is?
I think that she's protecting him. Because it's just like, even like Jara Ward says, that if they find out, it's going to change his entire world, and it would, and it doesn't matter to her, because she is in love with John Matthew, not who he was, and so I don't think ultimately it matters that much to her. I think she's more curious as a sympath, as we find out later, subsequent books, but I think it's just more that she doesn't want to hurt him. It would rock his world. It would change his own perception of himself. And so if he understands it himself and he comes to that realization, that's one thing. But for her to tell him, that's another, I think it's just, but it's aggravating. Just tell him. But I get why.
How about you, Sage?
I agree. I want him to know. I don't know if he would freak out. I feel like they all think that he is a reincarnated. They said that they think he's a reincarnated brother. I mean, why couldn't he be their reincarnated brother? That guy that they thought he was their dad, like his dad. So I don't think it's. he's reincarnated. That's all it is, right? So, I mean, he reincarnated to his daddy. Like, they know the Scribe Virgin does that kind of shit, so it won't be that huge of a surprise. I think it would be better for John to know, you know, like, I mean, legit, he sees this dude and he has a seizure. Wouldn't it be nice to know why? Like, why are these things happening to him? You know, like, I don't know. I feel like it would be fair. I wish you would tell him. I also wish he would be more questioning about the things that she says. He kind of like blows them off. So
Yeah.
I think that if he asked more questions, cause like, and then the one time he did ask, she pulled him into the bathroom and gave him a blowjob. So, so I don't know. I mean, I wish he would say something, but I also wish that he would ask more. You know?
I almost feel like maybe he doesn't want to know, or he already suspects it himself, and he's just afraid to know because of how his life changing. And maybe it's more of a subconscious thing on his part, you know, that he kind of knows, but it's like, am I crazy to think that? And you know, just like, but I'm me, you know, and I don't feel any different, you know, that kind of thing. So I think he's just afraid to know himself, and in some ways.
So I don't know. I honestly feel like sometimes you don't want to overstep your boundaries, and because Hex doesn't know all the unknowns, I think that's why she's keeping it to herself. Like, she knows things, so she may know that, you know, without revealing that, without having all the answers, could be problematic, right? So, and she's never said that. I'm just like adding that in because I can't see any other reason why she would keep that from him. And you know, it's kind of just evolving slowly, and that's fine. But it would be better for him. I feel like it would be better for him to know. I get why she's not doing it though. And so at that moment, they caravan over to the lab, go save who we find out is Nate. So why did I already ask this question? Why didn't Murder say anything to the brothers about going to rescue him?
No, we didn't talk about that yet.
Okay. So that's the question. Why didn't
he didn't want their nosy ass involved, and he didn't want to deal with, you know, no, really, because you know, sometimes a brotherhood can be a little too much, right? He lied and didn't even tell them that Nate was alive. He was like, you know, he told them that her son died. He didn't want them to get involved because he just didn't want all the bullshit that comes with it from them. And really, that's what I think that comes down to, because sometimes it just could be, you know, as much as we love them, they could be a little overwhelming. And I think he was done with their sarcasm and like V's bullshit, because really it was like V that was pissing him off the most. And you know, so yeah, he was like, I'm gonna just do what I gotta do, you know.
I'm over it.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're a little overbearing sometimes. So, I think, you know, to him it was a private crusade. You know, it was something that he needed to do. He wasn't part of the brotherhood, so why do I have to tell him? You know, I made it clear they don't want him there, that he has to go, and we'll help you do this because, you know, it's the right thing to do and they have morals. But yeah, I mean, as far as finding the mother, you know, and then, I think he doesn't tell him because he doesn't want exactly it. He doesn't want the brotherhood bullshit. And, you know, but ironically, after, they rescue Nate, it's like, and he meets Sarah, but we'll get into Sarah later, right? That, you know, he has to call Doc. They call Doc Jane, so it's like, obviously they weren't upset about it. So I don't really get, you know, weren't they mad that he lied? I don't know. That was kind of weird. But
I mean, I honestly, I think Murder's only mission was to have them help. You know, he only wanted them to help him find her. And that was the end. And as far as he was concerned, he was going back to South Carolina once he did this one thing, and he was going to walk off into the sun. And, you know, that would be it. I want to do this one last thing, which he explains later. So I think that's why he probably was like, I'm just going to save the kid and I'm going to finish this one great moment, rectify all my wrongs, and then I'm going back where, you know, back to South Carolina. So, you know, why get them involved and why get them so, you know, immersed into something that was his mission. I do think that, you know, he knew Hex had his 6, and he kind of also, you know, she would do things for him. So that's why he felt comfortable involving her in the first place. So I don't blame him. I'm like, I wouldn't have said nothing to especially Gio's salty ass. He was like tripping. I'm like, baby, what is happening? You got your wife back. Like, what? You and your Shelly good and everything. You're still like super salty. So then they get there and he meets Sarah. And Sarah meets him. What y'all think of that meeting?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. That girl had absolutely no filter. Like,
None.
he's like, she's like, I'm just thinking about how you would be in bed. You know, I mean, yeah.
She's like, oh my God,
instant chemistry. And
Yeah.
it was cool because it was all along. He finds out at that moment that she was her that he was seeing in his mirror that whole time.
Very
so
cool.
Really, yeah, it was a really, really cool moment.
How about you, AJ?
That was awesome. She's funny, and she's funny. I don't know. They were cute together.
I loved her reaction. She's like, are you guys PETA? And I'm like, PETA? Like, she was so fucking funny, like, through the whole thing. And I love that Murder just instantly bonded. I'm like, poop, you bonded. I'm like, dude, like, get to know her. You don't even know her name. You're like, this
and like, when they were in the stairwell and like Hex was like laughing because of how he was acting, and then he started blushing. That was really funny.
He was trying to be like super like smooth. Take charge of the situation.
He's like, I kicked the door.
I'm like, I love it. You're so cute. It's so cute.
Yeah, you know, I kicked the door open.
He kicked the door in. It got her attention though. It worked. Like, dude, you ain't bad in 11 years and you kicking doors in and shit. Like, that's some bonding right there. So cute. So, you know, she got a lot going on that day. So she found out there were vampires. She saw them like take control of someone's mind. And then later on, she saw Nate transition into a full-ass grown man in her face. Like, what? How do you think she processed all of that without like losing it? I would have lost it.
You know, because of her clinical mind, I think. You know, she already, you know, it's like, you know, different between like, let's say like her and Sola, right? Like Sola was just trying to justify everything, where she was just really trying to understand everything. You know, and so that was just the difference. She's just like, well, you know, something is different, because she already knew that their anatomy was different, or at least Nate's anatomy was different, and that, you know, she already suspected he was other, you know, just based on how his immune system reacted to the diseases that they tried to give him, and his body fought off, you know, even as a pre-trans, he fought off, you know, so. Yeah,
and his heart was sick. His heart
he's such a sweet kid too. You know, it's just like, oh, are you here for my shot? You know, like, she's like, God, no. You know, he was really sweet. I really liked the addition of his character. I like that kid. He's good. So, there was okay, never mind. I was going to say, there was a question later that I forgot to write down in my questions.
Oh, that's okay. We'll get to it. How much you saved?
I forgot what the question was.
The question was, Sarah saw a lot in that day. How did she like keep it together after finding out there were vampires, seeing that dude transition, all of that?
She did excellent. I mean, I feel like I would be like, for real, bro. Like, I would be a little scared. you know,
Yes.
but she was more shocked. And then it was like not even that shocked. Like she got that motherly instincts for Nate,
Nate.
and that overpowered everything. Like, that's my child now. You know, she felt this
Connection
kinship with him. Yeah, and that trumped anything else that she could have possibly been feeling at the time. And I think that she handled it very, very well. And she still wanted to have sex with him. So
yes.
with Murder,
I mean,
she had no problem. She's like, yeah, that didn't change my mind.
At the freak
You're so hot.
I think she reacted better. Like, we've seen some reactions, right, of people finding out about vampires. If we had to rank them, like, Solo was probably the worst, you know. But I would put Sarah right up there at the top as like one of the people who like accepted it better than all the other like Shellens. So I really appreciate. I was like, girl, you are a champ, honey, because that's a lot in one day. And I think, you know, having Murder beside her, because she really, really, really was attracted to him, and she kind of trusted him. You know, she thought he was Peter, for God's sake. So I think that helped her out a little bit. That she already had an inkling. So
yeah, it's just like same with, you know, how Jane was. Jane was kind of like, but she was accepting of it because she's that scientific mind, and she actually found it fascinating, and so did Sarah. So you know, they have this, they're kind of like, you know, they'll be besties.
yeah, I can see it now. The next question, so John and Murder end up kind of hanging out together while John was going through his momentary break, and he, you know, kind of rescues Murder in an alley. First off, were the brothers like expecting Murder to get their permission to hunt lessers? Like, why would that even be necessary? Why was that an issue?
That's that overbearing, I'm God kind of thing. I'm God of the vampires. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's that he needed permission or Tor was just being a dick, you know? Because there was that confrontation, and Tor was like, stop treating him like a fucking little kid. He's a grown-ass male, you know? Like, and you don't have permission. Well, why? You know, he's kind of like, why do I need permission? You know, I don't know why they think that. Or it was just Tor saying that, you know? Just, he likes to speak for other people sometimes. It's kind of annoying.
A little bit.
Trait. Know it all.
Right.
I agree with Tor being the one that, you know, likes to talk, but I think that they all were upset that Murder went ahead and did that. I think that they thought that was reckless, and I mean, and it slightly was between him and John having one weapon, so that was a little reckless. But but I don't understand why him fighting, like, that's what he was trained to do. That is what is inherently in him to kill lessers. That's what he said. He was like, the call to kill the lessers was strong, and you know, he just went and did his thing. And I think they just overreacted, because that's what the Brotherhood does. Like, they're just a bunch of, you know, I mean, I love them, but they're kind of girlish in the way that they gossip. You know, and the way they, you know, and I think they were just being dramatic, and they were just mad at him for other reasons, and they were just using this as something else to say, you know, you shouldn't have done this. And I think that really is what it comes down to with them.
Other ways of justifying their feelings.
So I'm gonna say it. I think he violated protocol. They have procedures. They only go out in the field in pairs now. There's an additional villain on the loose, the balloon animals, and he just went out there without no like back. He went out there and, you know, he endangered his life. He endangered, John was like feeling in his feelings, you know, and thank God he was there, because at least he has like current knowledge of all of the enemies, right? And so I think Murder should have assessed the situation before he went into it. I think it's completely justified to have, like, I can't pick up a gun because I know how to shoot one and just go out and vigilante style on people that I think are committing crimes, even if I know they're criminal, right? So I feel like they like, dude, you just walk back in here and you just kind of like jumped out there and you don't even know what the fuck you doing right now. And his shot was off. Murder can't shoot right now. Like he was like, pew, pew, you know, like he could have got himself fucked up. Legit. I don't agree with Tor a lot, but I feel like if you're going to go out and fight lessers, at least be armed, at least know what you're up against. I think that was very reckless. And I think it was a continuation of murder being like a little bit on the verge of suicidal, as we've seen that before. Yeah. I don't like it. I'd say, Murder, you being like real reckless with your person and I'm falling in love with you. Don't tell Rev. But I was like falling for him in this book. And dude was like out here acting a fool. I just can't with Murder. But how cute were him and John though? Like, let's get off of that. How cute were him and John when they were fighting together? I adored that scene. What did you guys?
Oh my gosh, that scene where they're like walking down the alley and they're like whistling. I can just like all I picture is them like hopping in the air, snapping their feet. You know, like,
so cute, so cute. What about you, AJ? I love it.
Yeah, that was really cute, and especially since they're two people that shouldn't get along. You know, but they just have this sort of kinship, this immediate, like soulmates almost in a way, you know. I mean, as far as like, it was reckless. They both shouldn't have been doing that, or at least gone and got themselves armed if they were going to do that. But at the same time, I don't think murder needs permission to kill lessers. I just don't agree with that. But as far as John should have known better. But Tor, you know, but at the same time, Tor is like, and I don't know. I just thought like he treated John like a child then, and it's like he should have been like, dude, why are you doing this? You know, what's going on? Because obviously John was feeling almost the same way Murder was. They were both always having the same kind of feelings. So, because John was feeling like, oh God, I'm not going to be around much longer anyway. You know, because of this festering wound and infection. And then Murder's just like, well, I'm going to lose Sarah. So if I die a noble death, that's fine too. So.
Yeah. So, I'm trying to think if I had any follow-up to that. I don't think I do. You know, after it's all said and done, and they, see Nate through his transition, they start to kind of work on a cure for John. Sarah's been doing that all night, you know, and then they go over to the audience house to request an audience with the king. Tor kind of blocked their way because he was being overbearing and a dick. But Sarah was not having it. Were you like satisfied when you saw her go in on his ass at the door?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, she was just like, excuse me. What is your fucking problem? You know, like she'd say like that, but you know, it's just like, what is your problem? You know,
that was ad-lib, but she could have. Oh my God.
Yeah, and and it was just, Tor was just like, all right, fine, okay. I mean, you don't see his reaction, but he's just like, and then it's like on the page, and that's how they got an audience with the king.
Right. And now they're waiting. What about you, Sage?
I mean, I love it because it feels like all the women go off on Tor at least
once.
I know.
Well, because he's such
right. It's like all the females go off on Tor at least once. And I think he deserves it because sometimes he's just, he takes his position a little too serious. And sometimes he doesn't give people the benefit of the doubt. So yeah, he deserved it. And it was, all the time.
All the time.
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt by saying sometimes.
You are so kind.
I am. I shouldn't be though, because I'm like the dark fairy, right?
You're the dark fairy, but that's okay.
It's all right though. But yeah, so yes, I enjoyed it. Every time males are like that, I get really excited when women go off on them. So yes, I enjoyed it immensely.
I love it.
Yeah, I
Love it.
don't know how Autumn could stand it.
I don't know.
He likes it
I
down
think
good,
he's
though. I
different
think
with
that's
her.
the problem.
Well, I
You know
think
what?
he's
He's
different
like a
with her.
he's like the grandpa. He's like another grandpa. You know, he's grumpy and he's too serious. But then he's like somebody gets in his face and he's like, all right, fine. You know, like I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah, I
So,
certainly enjoyed that. I don't know if I gave y'all my reaction, but that's okay. Then John Matthew went off on tour a little bit later on. Was was it a long time coming?
Yeah.
How did you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like John. I mean, that wasn't initially why John went to go talk to him, but it was like, he's just like, what the fuck is your problem? You need to chill out. Like, what, and I don't, and John's just like, I don't give a shit what he did. He's like, I don't give a shit what he did in the past. It's like, doesn't matter. That's not how he is now. That's not what he's shown me. And his fault. And
yeah, how about you, Sage?
Yeah, I think John he kept fighting for murder, right? He kept fighting for him. Because he saw the good in him. He saw the things that the Brotherhood was putting a blind eye to. And yeah, he fought with Tor because Tor needed to hear it. Tor needed to hear what they were doing was unfair. I mean, the guy took basically an experimental drug, all in hopes to save John. So yeah, them doing that to him was just really uncalled for.
Yeah, I was surprised though. I was really surprised by Tor, especially since he basically did the same thing that Murder did. He went away for 2 years, longer than Murder. Didn't say shit. He was just out, for 2 years, and then he came back and he was pretty fucking reckless. Like, he was out there jumping off bridges, diving in water, fucking not eating. He damn near killed himself. He endangered the entire Brotherhood by being out there reckless and them having to cover his ass. Core had to save his fucking ass. So I was very surprised that he was holding those things that Murder did against him in the way that he was. So that, that was surprising. And I think John needed to finally tell his ass off, because he was like seriously treating him like with kid gloves. And that was not something that John ever asked him to do. Yes, you are my father figure. You're the only father figure I've ever had, but you were gone as I grew up. And you never like let me grow into a full grown man. Like, that's not my fault that you weren't here, and you need to stop like looking at me like a kid because you're trying to get back this time that you lost. And he's always been doing that. Like, oh, I didn't see him grow up, so in my mind he's still a kid, and that's not fair to John. I don't know why Tor is doing that, especially when he's got his own set of baggage that he is still reconciling. So yeah, that was a bit much. And yes, yay, John. I really appreciate it. I was like, get his ass. So the whole thing about these arguments are that Murder and Sarah are a hard sell to the Brotherhood. It's a couple of questions for that, but I won't bombard you guys. But first, why were they such a hard sell?
They didn't trust Murder, and I think that was the biggest problem, because normally if they would have trusted him like they trusted Rage and they trusted V, then he would have been able to have a human around as well, right? But because they don't trust him, he didn't get the same respect as the other ones do.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, of course, it was based on stuff that they believed to be true that wasn't. So,
right.
So I mean, you kind of understand where they're coming from because they didn't know the truth. But why not ask? Like, why not? Probe into it a little more.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, as we saw, like, the things that she was doing was something that would have benefited the Brotherhood. And, they did let their mistrust of Murder, their misunderstanding of what actually happened. And they let that trump everything, even the fact that she's a fucking molecular biologist. And, you know, she's figuring out things that, you know, could have maybe even helped Selena. How do you know? You know, so you like disregard all of that. You like, nope, get his ass out of here. I don't know. I think they could have done better with their assessment of the situation before they just made a snap decision, because God damn it.
I mean, you know, at least Jane was like, yeah, you know, she appreciated her. So did Manny.
Yeah, I'm sure she did, you know, because, you know, and they need that rotation thing. You know what I mean? Like they got needs down there in that damn clinic.
Yeah,
so,
and I'm glad that she stood up to Raph and was like, can I still help John? You know, and he was like, yes. And can I say goodbye to Nate? Yes. You know, so at least, you know, Raph recognized the importance that, you know, of her. So
yeah,
you know.
should have immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. All right. So you know, later on, Murder is talking to Hex, and they're talking about John's wound, and he kind of just blurts out like he's gonna die. Was that a bit blunt? I'm like, what's going on with you, Murder? What do you guys think?
You know, they were having a fight, and, you know, he apologized right away, you know, so I was okay with that. I mean, they were both kind of in the heat of the moment, you know, so I mean, it was a little bit stepping out of the bounds, but it wasn't too harsh. I mean, it was reality that Hex wasn't wanting to face, you know, possible reality she didn't want to face. So, you know, and so, you know, I don't know. I mean, he apologized right away, so I think I was okay with that. A little bit harsh, but
yeah, he means
being
well.
honest. So,
how about you, Sage?
I mean, I really love Murder. I'm going to say this first. I didn't remember him before I had my second read. I'm like rubbing my book. I don't know if you know this. I'm like literally patting my book right now.
And you don't usually get yours out like right in front of you. You really like this dude.
Yeah, usually they're on my shelf back here, behind my ear. But I really, really like him. But what him blurting that out, you need tact. No matter what's happening, do you know what I mean? No matter what's going on, like there's things that you just don't say. So yeah, he was a little harsh. He shouldn't have said that. You know, but so even in the heat of the moment, you should kind of. He said it fine, you know, but was it wrong? Yeah, it was a little wrong.
Yeah, I did appreciate his apology. To AJ's point, I did appreciate that he was kind of like, "Whoa, shit, damn, let me pull that back." But yeah, I don't know if Murder, and I'm not giving him a pass, but I don't know, like Murder been alone for a while, you know, and you can tell that he like trying to like balance, you know, his interactions with others because he hasn't had an interaction with others for a long time. So I think, you know, as sweet as he is, you know, he just kind of lost that fight for a minute in the heat of the moment. So I give him a pass on that, but no, it was kind of wrong. And Heck's like, what the fuck? And I'm like, you know, that was kind of shitty. So I don't know. I felt bad that he was so far gone with his illness. I'm not gonna go back to that point. He should have told somebody immediately. Anyway, all right. So all said and done, they're not gonna stay. Hex was supposed to take her memories. Was he right or wrong for like leaving her full of her memories?
I think he did the right thing. I think that her being, you know, because remember how like when V took Jane's memories and how it actually really physically hurt her, and she was like depressed, you know, she had like slept all this time, you know, and it really affected her, you know, really hurt her. And think about how when, you know, the same thing happened to Manny felt like he was having a psychotic break and only sleeping for a week, you know, and you know, he'd come back and he came back to work at like odd hours, like he was like, and I think maybe that was partly because he's probably a vampire, but he was like his days and nights were screwed up and he couldn't tell which if it was AM or PM, and I don't know. So it was sort of like, I feel like that would have damaged her too. I think that when you're super smart, those patches that they put on your memories affect you in a way that's very profound, especially if it's done it, you know, with I don't know. I'm glad he didn't do it. I don't know.
You're like, long story short, glad you didn't do it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, how about you, Sage?
I'm gonna follow up with I'm glad he didn't do it either.
Yeah, me too. I don't think he knew all of that. Like, I don't think he'd been fucking with people's head for a long time down there in South Carolina, like, you know, reconstructing memories, making them fall in love with people and shit. I just think he just wanted, selfishly, he wanted her to remember him. I don't blame him. I love that he was like, you know, I'm not a brother anyway. I don't have to abide by their rules. And I trust you. I trust you with everything. And that was just the ultimate level of, you know, you could hurt me. You could hurt my entire race, but I trust you that much that I'm not going to take your memories. And, you know, he had every intention because he left her that little lock of his hair, and he was like, I'm gonna tell her that this is really special to him. He was leaving her with the necklace, you know, so he had every intention. I think it was just too much for him. I think he respected her and knew that she wouldn't hurt him. So I like Murder a lot. I mean, you know, not almost as much as Rev, almost, but so he goes back home to South Carolina, and he was, the only thing that kind of saved him this time was this couple proposal in front of him. And he was he was considering suicide again because his life was that empty. Do you think if were it not for that couple and ultimately Tor coming down to talk to him and asking him to come back, do you think he would have done himself in?
Mean, he saw the couple and talked to Tor after he was, you know, at the river with the knife to his throat. But
oh, did I say that wrong? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I thought I said he saw the couple. And
yeah, but that helped him. Like, yeah, okay, I can't do that because it's a disrespect to Sarah. So, you know, I can't do that. If she's alive, then I'm alive because that's what's fair. Because we're both suffering. So,
okay. I know it's sad. How about you, Sage?
I think, you know, everything happens for a reason. So that couple was there to save him from doing something drastic, right? So I do believe that you know, he might have done it had they not been there, but they were there to save him, I think. So I'm glad he didn't, because he got his little happily ever after, but you know, he could have.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I thought, yeah, he was outside, saw the couple, and then Tor showed up on the porch. I do think that he was getting little nudges, you know, a little bit of extra help, and we'll talk about my friend Lassiter in a minute. But yeah, I think it was perfect timing, and I do think he would have gone through with it because he had been kind of threatening, and then before. And then now he doesn't have Sarah. So I think that was the kind of the last straw. And he had said earlier, he had promised earlier that that was going to be the last good thing that he did. So I unfortunately think the murder was seriously at the end. And I think those things just happened at the exact right moment. So poor Murder. So he comes back, you know, we know all the things. What do you think about Murder? Well, let's do the induction first, because the induction happened first. He put his name up. He put John's name up to be a brother. And first, though, shouldn't Tor have done that shit like ages ago? Like, what the fuck? Shouldn't he have done that without Murder having to like give him the nudge?
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing, and my is like, and if Murder hadn't suggested it, how much longer would it have gone on that nobody stood up for John? I mean, not even his fucking best friend. Like, you're a shithead, Quinn. That should have been the first motherfucking thing he did. Like, I don't even know what he was thinking. Tori, you can understand because he's a father figure, and he's just, I mean, I don't know. Who the fuck knows? You think of him as a little kid. Oh, he's not ready for that yet. Well, fuck you, dude. You know, I don't. Yeah, I mean, Taurus pissed me off.
Who pissed you off, Quinn or Tori? You like wrote
All of
everybody
them.
in it.
All of them.
Right.
All of them.
All of them all.
You know, and it's like, would Tori even have thought about doing it? I mean, because that was condition for, you know, murder coming back to the Brotherhood. It's like, did he have to threaten them to get them to do that for John? I mean, John deserved it a long time ago. So
I think I have a different outlook on that. I think Tor couldn't do it because he's biased. I think because he's his dad, he doesn't feel like he should be the one to put him up. I think because when they put up Quinn's name, he was like, I wish it would have been my son, but you know, Quinn's a good guy too. You know what I mean? Like he kind of wished it, but I don't think toward, because he feels like, you know, it should be one of the other brothers to say that it's him because I'm his dad. Like, so I shouldn't be the one to be like, he's ready to be in there. Somebody else should have made the nomination. And I think when Murder came in and made the nomination, he was like, yes, finally someone did it. So yeah, we're nominating him. You know, I think, I guess that's how I looked at it.
I was thinking the father-son thing too, but isn't that the way of the Brotherhood? Like son of murder, son of murder, Tor, son of harm, Wrath, son of wrath. They are born to be brothers. So that is Darius's son. So he should have been automatically like in a line of succession, right?
Right, he should have, but they never did the nomination for him. And honestly, I'm waiting for Blade to get nominated too.
When it's a father-son, I got the impression you didn't need one, because if Throw wouldn't have been blackmailed by Core and had to go away, it would have been Throw, son of Throw, Black Dagger Brotherhood member. Right?
Probably.
I mean, that's how it go. You don't need a nomination, right? I thought it was, the reason I feel like it was so unfair in them not to just automatically do it. And I think they do think of him as a kid, but they never thought of any other dude as a kid. You know what I'm saying?
You still had to be nominated, even if it was like,
yeah,
but you couldn't be nominated before they changed the law if you weren't, you know, a certain class. Like Quinn would never have been eligible for it, right? Because
Quinn would never have been eligible
because he's not considered a warrior class. Yeah.
But John is not outside of the warrior class. He's a warrior.
Yeah, I know, but
he had the markings, so he was.
Yeah, and he was Darius's son. They know that. So
I'm not disagreeing. I mean, I think that should have been the first fucking thing they did.
I wasn't saying you were. I was just saying, you know, this is like, you know, something that it feels like it should have just happened. But, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, but I think that's what's not. It's not adding up, because like some of them, we were assuming that they just kind of, because wasn't it like that before in the warrior camps and stuff, right? So I get
they went to the blood.
But I feel like recently they're not doing that anymore. Like they got to be.
Maybe it was a change. Yeah, maybe it was a change in the law.
Yeah, they changed the law to allow Quinn, because Quinn technically wasn't eligible before they changed the law, because he's not considered a warrior class.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't change the law on fathers and sons, because when Rampage grows up, he's probably going to be a brother. He already protected his sister. You know,
I don't think it's an automatic thing.
I want to see the
so
baby.
cute.
They changed it,
so we're gonna move past that.
but they changed it, so it's not automatic anyway. You're not. It's an eligibility too. It's not. It was if you're a son of a brother, you're automatically eligible. That doesn't mean you're automatically going to get inducted.
He was already fighting, but we'll move past that. You can have it.
Moving
on. Right? So, all right. So, what do we think about the induction? The induction was kind of a fantastic moment for John, and you could kind of see how emotionally he was impacted. So, what do you guys think about that?
It's very sweet. And
I cried. I reading it, cried. I cried through the whole thing.
Lassiter's entrance. I have to talk about Lassiter's entrance.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Glowing.
And all my
naked and glowing.
Honestly,
because he loves to be naked.
But I felt like he didn't show up any different than the scribe. Well, you know, maybe he was a little more Lassiter-ish, but I feel like he was very like regal. Like he like floated
he
down
was
with
more
his
subdued
beautiful
than he
ass
was
wings.
because it was the tradition is serious, and so he didn't want to make a mockery of it, I think.
Yeah, he did not.
Yeah.
I thought he was very regal, and he just is who he is. Like anytime you see him, this is supposed to be about John's moment, but we got to talk about Lassiter and be like, for real. But you know, he was like, I was expecting him to be like an ass. And he held it in all the way until he was on the way out and said, "Who's your daddy?" in B's ear. And I was like,
That awesome. It was awesome.
Who's your daddy?
It's awesome.
Oh
I
my
love
God.
how everybody was like, "Oh, he's the successor."
Well, like he in like, you know, like Wrath was like, I know.
My God.
Well, because obviously we already told him, but it was just funny.
That was the
or last
best.
night told him, but
That was the best coming out party I'd ever been to. I really enjoyed that.
yeah,
And I'm glad it was at John's. It was memorable.
yeah. So I think that made John's induction more memorable because, you know, you think about like how Quinn was inducted and like his reason for being inducted was just so over the top. You know, like him, you know, the flying the plane and the whole thing, you know, so it was like, what are you going to do to top that?
Oh my
You know,
God.
so it was nice to have, you know, Lassiter come in and reveal himself as the successor and
He will
just
forever
be there
be
for that
a
moment,
topper.
which I think was.
He will forever be a topper. So I loved it. It's amazing. All right, so let's move on to like the secondary part of the book. You know, we did a little
The
different.
book.
Characters were so immersed with each other, so we had to talk about the two sets of couples together. But the real the real nuts part was the balloons. What did they sneak up on Throw, or was he losing his grip on reality? What do you think?
No, they snuck up on him. It was a reminder that your ass is mine.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
just scared him, and then he kept looking over his shoulder, and it was like he got more and more paranoid as time went on. I thought so.
Yeah.
He was always
Yeah.
looking over his shoulder, and he's always feeling like someone was watching him, and you know,
Mhm.
it's just like, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. How about you, Sage?
I think he wasn't being paranoid. They were fucking with him.
Yeah.
And I think that it was their way of showing him that you might think you're in charge, but you're really not.
Yeah, you're
Right.
not a bitch.
Yeah.
Well, I think because the time was coming to an end, where his usefulness was wearing out. I think the person who was really running the show was like, okay, I'm sick of fucking with you. Let me fuck with you. You know what I mean? So, because, you know, she had dealt with a lot. He was like, you know, fucking the book and all the stuff that goes along with that book. And, you know, I think she was like,
Did you
no,
make a hand gesture down when you said that?
Did I do what?
I thought you were like all the things.
No, I did not. Heavens, girl, I'm a motherfucking handmaid. Now I'm be making no goddamn.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
So you know what those handmaids do.
Woman of distinction. I'm just kidding. I probably did. Who knows? But anyway, I feel like she was just done. She like, listen, you ain't running shit. You think you running something, and your little punk ass plan ain't shit either. So I'm done. I'm taking my hands off you, and I will let these balloon animals whoop your ass.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So speaking of his plan, though, wasn't that a bit weak? Like that, I feel like that evidences his inability to be a leader. His plan was kind of weak, right? Like if he was going to take over the race, you were going to save the Glimera and from like, what was the thought behind that? What do you guys think about his overall plan?
He is just, these delusions of grandeur really clouded his mind. The book was fucking with his mind. I mean, I don't think any of those thoughts were even his own. I mean, maybe it started out as his own thought, but then she, you know, the book ran with it, you know. And his plan was just so convoluted. It's like, okay, I'm gonna have a dinner party and I'm gonna kill 2 of these Glimera elders, and then you're all gonna bow down at my feet and you're all gonna kiss it, you know, like it's like, no, this is such a small group of people. It's like 20 people out of, you know, how many vampires are there, you know, like nobody's gonna listen to you. Nobody's gonna care what these fucking people said. And I love how, you know, Wrath was just like, you know, when Boone had come to the audience house and said that there was this dinner party, and so that's why the brothers crashed it. But he was just like, you know, like, and if any of them are gonna, you know, any of these Glimera people are gonna do, you know, fuck with me again, kill them all. I don't fucking care. I'm sick of this Glimera shit. You know, just do it. Just, I'm done.
Right. All right. How about you, Sage? What you think about that?
I think his plot, you know, he was just going with that fear thing, right? He wanted to like put fear in them, and they're so easily manipulated because they were manipulated so much with when they first came into town with Core. He, you know, he thought that he can just tell them there's this new evil. I'm gonna say he saves them, and it'll be done. They'll worship him because they want any reason to not follow Wrath. So I think that's why he, you know, he thought it was a good plan. It really wasn't. But that's where I think that's where he was coming.
And that's the thing,
because he just thought they were so ignorant and naive, you know.
Well, and the thing is, you're not going to take like 20 people and overthrow the king. I mean, it doesn't make any damn sense. Like, that's.
But he still is under the assumption that the Glimera has more powers than they do, and I think that's why.
Yeah, I didn't think he understood that the Princess were in a different place. You know, he invited the princess. And I think he didn't understand that they were in a different place with the king. The election like changed all of that Glimera council relationship. And they're still princess, but they don't have that immediate access to, you know, overthrow the government or anything like that. And I think he was so gone on his you know, this book, and you know, I don't think he had the ability to come up with use his own deductive reasoning at all. So I think because every time he tried to have a straight thought, remember, the book would be like, no, that's not what you're thinking, and the book was like getting upset and heaving and doing all these things. So I don't think, because Thro isn't as stupid. I think it really was that this book kept him in such a narrow box that he couldn't think. You know what I mean? So he couldn't see what was happening until slowly the book, ultimately, she started releasing her hold on him, which was interesting as fuck. So how do you think he felt when he found out that this lady was just double crossing him and he ended up like strapped to a table with a hard dick? What do you think about that?
I loved it. An eternity of blue ball, I guess. I don't know.
Oh my God. It's probably gonna stay like that. It's gonna freeze.
Probably, because it doesn't look like she's gonna go back there anytime soon. So,
right.
So, you know, he got what he deserves. He got what he deserves. So
yeah, he earned that shit.
You know, I almost feel like she started fucking with him a long time ago, not just, you know, when he got possession of the book. So you know,
yeah, I don't know. I think she picked the most vulnerable, you know, to give the book to, because you know there were a whole group of them that she could have picked, but he was the one with the weakest mind, and he was the one that was like alone. And you know, it's easier to break someone when you're alone. What do we think about her? We know a lot about her, but we can't say it.
She is still one of my favorite villains. That's all I'm going to say. She is really one of my favorite villains because she's so layered and complicated, and we'll learn more about it. But what we see from her right now, that was just fucking awesome. Like, look what I can do.
She took that lady's clothes. She jumped up there, or what's that? Those silver shoes. Anyway, I feel like she went through that lady's closet and was like, "Well, I got to be sharp when I leave, so I'm gonna take me some clothes and take off across the line with my stilettos."
It was stilettos.
You know,
that was
she
the
was
best.
down there. She was like bones when she was down there. You know.
Right.
So I think she like took some of that the woman who was living in the house. I feel like she took some of her clothes because it was stiletto marks on the snow.
How
I'm
funny
like,
was
yeah.
her reaction?
Well,
funny
you know,
was her
she
reaction
loves
when
her
they saw the
Louis
stiletto
Vuittons,
footprints?
so
Yeah, she does. I think she did have one.
she probably
pair of
did
shoes
steal
down
clothes.
there.
I mean, obviously, she's not going to
Yeah, she had to, right?
Yeah.
But I think she had one pair of like glittery shoes down there, and that was the only thing she had down
Yeah,
there.
well,
So.
no,
You know, you never know. She might have brought those up with her.
Maybe.
Wasn't it the red sole Louis Vuittons? Those were her favorite
The
things.
Christian Louboutin, yeah, she had those, and that was the only thing she had. Bless
Well,
her
what
heart.
was really cool is that she, you know, he came down that thing and he left this phosphorus, you know, kind of like thing, and then she shot up, like she
Yeah,
like
it was
sprung
his
up,
life
you know, that was
force
kind of
that she
badass.
climbed.
That was a
Yeah,
good visual.
she climbed his life force. I was like into it. I'm like, you climbed that man's life force. That's what's up.
Right.
Yeah,
She's
she shot
awesome.
like she just like sprung up, you know, like Superman. That was kind of cool.
Yeah,
She's
she's
awesome.
amazing. So one last question. We talk a lot about the brothers and the evolution of the brothers, and some things never change, but there is someone that changed. Our King Wrath has become a bit more patient. He's become more kind, and he's become more considerate. And I think that is a direct result of him having a family, a full-on family now, even with a dog. But when did it happen? Well, what do you think of Wrath right now?
Well, you know, I mean, we saw it like in the last book, you know, him with Core and how he showed him mercy, you know. So you know, Wrath's, I mean, he's still a scary dude, but he's not unreasonable, and you know, he's more like his father wasn't unreasonable, so he's got those traits, you know.
Yeah.
So
how about you, Sage?
So I always, you know, he's always been loud and angry, and you know, like that's how his personality is. But he's always had a good heart, right? And I think, you know, Beth has a lot to do with his temperament because she doesn't let him go all, you know, she kind of brings him back, puts him back, you know, makes him more grounded. Yeah, and I think having the audience house probably has changed him a lot too. Seeing his people and talking with them on a daily basis is almost like opening up his compassion more, and I think that is probably helping with him evolving as a person.
You know, I will say this, also like him having a kid, because it's like that does something to men. You know, it does. I mean, it changes, like when you have kids, it changes your perspective on things. It does. It just does. So
I think he has finally, like, I think for a long time, Wrath was fighting destiny. Because he was like, I can't be a successful king if I'm not out physically protecting the race. And I think along with having a family, he has finally kind of like found his stride through the help of many others, specifically Saxton. He's become more comfortable in his role of king, and grew you know, a little bit more reverent to it. You know, I think he understands a lot more about what his father must have gone through, even though, you know, he didn't get to, you know, see him as an adult. I think he understands a lot more about the role, and I think he takes it a lot more seriously. That is probably related to, you know, him having just that in the face connection. But even his father didn't have that direct line to the commoners, to the people who are actually, you know, he's actually beholden to. And I kind of feel like that's where it started to like shift, because he was still buck wild when he when he was just, you know, when he found Beth, he was still like out there acting a fool. I think he finally is like owning his position, his blindness, his skills and abilities, and his ability to lead his people. So I love to see it. I can't wait to see more because he has certainly grown.
There's one thing we didn't talk about though, was Nate. We didn't talk a lot about Nate.
Okay. What you want to say about Nate?
Well, I just thought it was cool that, you know, when they did his mama's fade ceremony, you know, it was nice that he seems like a really like old soul, because he was just going around and asking, what are your funeral, what are your funeral traditions, and like asking and you know, and deciding which one he thought he liked the best. And I thought that was really cool. And I like the fact that, you know, him and Hex could talk about what happened to them, to each other. And, you know, that was cool. I thought that was a nice moment. You know, they were like, which family?
Yeah, I think that was
I
pretty
liked
cool.
Nate, so I just wanted to mention him.
That's perfectly fine. Did you have something to add about Nate, Sage?
I mean, he was a sweet kid. He was a very sweet kid. To grow up in a lab, you know, that can really make somebody fucked up, right? And thank goodness he's not. He just has so much love, and he's grounded, right? And I think that is something that you wouldn't expect for somebody that was literally made in a lab. So, you know, I don't know. He was just a good kid.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how his story develops too. Because I mean, obviously he's gonna have some issues, but you know, he's like, I refuse to. You know, he's like, I just want to go back into the room in the training center and close myself in there. But he's like, I can't do that. My mom wouldn't want me to do that. So I thought that was a really cool way for him to honor her in death. So
I understood. Yeah. All right. So I think that's all our questions, unless y'all got something else. All right. So we're gonna wrap up our Halloween special. Hope you liked our costumes. Hope you love talking about murder. Click like and share down below. Ring that bell to subscribe so you know when we have new content up. Next week is Blood Truth, and we can't wait to come back and talk more about Boone. Thank you all for joining. Happy Halloween.
Bye.